Commanders fans, here with the guy himself, Ron Rivera. I've been here for a couple days now. A lot of stuff to do. Obviously, this year is a little bit different for you. You know, in years past, when you first got here, you kind of were making all these personnel decisions by yourself. How is it now to kind of have a team of guys helping you with the process and aggregating some of that data?
You know, I think it's been pretty cool, and it's taken a lot off of me in terms of those things that, you know, you go out there and you're trying to make decisions, but having somebody, you know, that has set stuff up, basically put it on the table for you, is a little bit different. It's a group of guys that really, you know, we brought in last year, got an opportunity to really get to work with them this off season, going into the regular season, and now as we start preparing for the next draft, you feel that, okay, this is you know what they've done. They've prepared it. Now we're here with the combine. We got an opportunity to know specifically exactly who we're looking at and how their skill set fits our needs.
So you've kind of narrowed it down a little bit.
Yes.
This one. I think that's something people don't understand is you have so much information to go through. How do you get that all kind of packed up and ready for this date and be kind of at that moment for the combine?
Well, what it does is it kind of narrows your scope a little bit. Now, it doesn't mean that these other guys are off the table.
Sure.
It just means that, you know, hey, we're going to put a little extra emphasis on this and this and this. Big part of it because we have the interview process.
Yeah.
You can only get to interview so many guys, and you can't interview everybody. So we focused on the guys we're interviewing, the guys that will go out and see, whether it's during the actual combine itself, the workouts, or when we go to their pro days. You know, those guys are obviously going to be on our list. So when we go to a school who say, hey, they may have 25 guys going, these top 15 are the guys we want you to focus on.
Yeah.
And so really what I'm saying is they've been able to limit the amount of people we have to look at as coaches, but at the same time still, you know, hey, don't forget, keep an eye on this guy too.
Yeah, and you mentioned the interview process,
Yep.
and I kind of think that's maybe the most important thing. When I talk to my other coach buddies, they say, oh, he interviewed really well. What are you looking for in that process? Like, because it's a short time, it's kind of a set period of time.
Well, what we've done is, and again, for the most part, most of the guys, I should say almost all the guys that are on this list that are here have been interviewed by us, somebody working for us at one time or another. Now's an opportunity for us to get a little bit more in depth with a certain number of guys. And so as we go through this interview process, we're going to get a number of guys every night. We're going to interview them, and we'll take our notes, we'll record them so that we know exactly, you know, who we've talked to, what we've got going with them, where they fit for us, and how do they fit for us.
Yeah.
You know, are they a cultural fit? Are they a locker room fit? Are they a positional fit? Does their skill set fit with what we do offensively, defensively? That's the important thing that we're trying to get through as we go through this initial process.
And do you have anything like, you know, it's so funny when I listen to these pressers out here, I'm like, oh, you know, he stood up at the podium, that's maybe shows confidence, or do you have anything like that you kind of lean on?
You
from
go
past
through all
experience?
that. No, you do, and because that's really important because we'll watch those interviews as well, because everything that they do here is going to be recorded for us. But one of the things that we do is when we bring a young man into our interview room, we're watching game tape with them of them playing their games. And so what we're looking for when we go through that is, again, how do they sit in that chair? Are they leaning in, watching things, trying, you know, or they're not quite sure, they're kind of puzzled, you know, because you're asking them, hey, what's the personnel grouping? What formation? What's the shift there? What's the motion? You remember what that play was called?
Yeah.
You know, what was your assignment on this? Hey, why did that break down? How come that didn't work? And you're listening for their responses and how they respond and what they say when they respond. You know, some guys may respond something like, oh man, that guy did this and this guy did this. Well, sometimes that might tell you that that's the guy that's looking to blame everybody instead of saying, oh man, you know, we missed this. He could have done this better, but you know, I could have done that too. Now there's a guy that will take responsibility, that will, you know, hey, I'm a team player.
Right.
So you pay attention to what's said as well, and you pay attention to how they say it.
Do you find that guys are more coached up now in this kind of day and age? Because they have classes now for these meetings with the coaches.
They do, but that's why we show game tape, and we mix it up.
Yeah.
I mean, some are good plays, some are bad plays. Right. Some plays are directly on them. And so whether they're good or bad, you want to see how they handle that. And you can prepare all you want for answering questions, but you got to, you know, hey, you see something that could be emotional for you. It could be a play where they get completely burnt on as a defender, or a guy that could drop a ball. We had a guy, we showed one, a receiver dropped the ball, And he said, oh, that was so bad by me. He said, you know what, look at me, I run a good route, I widened the guy to the right, and the quarterback put it where it had to be. And he said, honestly, I jumped and misjudged it too soon. That's on me, and I'm better than that, you know. And he is, because when you look at his catches, the young man had like 60-something catches, and 10 of them were touchdowns. So you go, okay, yeah, you're right. You know, that's a concentration catch. We get it, but I at least appreciate him saying, hey, I did that. And said the quarterback did his job.
Well, and saying taking ownership of it, I think is what you want to see. You want people to take extreme ownership, and that's a nice thing to see. One thing I want to ask you is obviously talk about, you know, moving and trading for different positions this offseason, first round draft capital, getting rid of it. Is that an easier decision this year because of how deep this dense maybe this draft class is? Or?
Well, I think part of the reason it is here because of where we are now.
Okay.
You know, we've put some pretty good pieces in place. You know, we came out of this season, we're ranked number 6 on the offensive line. You feel good about that group.
Right.
You've got a 1,000-yard rusher, okay, in Antonio. You got a 1,000-yard receiver, 2-time receiver in Terry McLaurin. So you say, hey, you know what? Not only do we have our offensive line pretty good in place, but we've got some skill players around him that can make plays. So now, hey, maybe we can go out and find that quarterback and be willing to use our draft capital. You know, we feel good about some of the defensive positions. Yeah, there's a couple I think we may need. So keeping some of that draft capital back may help us as well.
Right.
And again, with free agency coming up, now what do we do too? So there's a lot of things that we have to look at. You can't close the door on anything. You got to keep it open. You know, I know we're in a difficult situation. We've got some of our really good veterans that are up, and we're trying to figure out how can you keep them.
Sure.
Don't know if we can keep them all. You probably can't, but we'll do the best we can.
Absolutely. So I'm of the mindset, you know, in breaking down the team, that receiver is probably a position you'd like to upgrade, you know, and you've been kind of documented as saying, oh, you're happy with the receiver group. Obviously, Diami, young talent. Curtis Samuel, injured, but showed tremendous potential in Carolina. What would you say to someone like me about that?
I would say, you know, I don't disagree with you, but I do have to say, I'd like to believe that getting Curtis healthy and back on that field, ready to roll, bodes very well for us. I would say with a young man in Diami that showed you what Diami can do at the end of the year, you go, man, that guy's got some potential. A couple of catches he made down the stretch, a couple of catches he made in traffic, big catches. You go, that's why you drafted him, because again, you know, coming out into the 2021 draft, Diami had led the NCAAs in contested catches. We saw that down the stretch, and we said, man, that's a big time catch. We saw him play special teams and the way he played gunner and went in and made tackles. Man, there's a toughness element to him. So you felt good about it. And as you said about Curtis, we know what Curtis is capable of. Let's get him healthy, get him back on the field. You know, we got a chance to get Logan back out on the field, you know, coming back. And, you know, if we can get a guy like JD and get him back, get him on the field. These are some very good pieces. You feel we have some good quality playmakers, but we never turn down an opportunity to get a really good playmaker if we have that opportunity.
Right. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then last question is, last year you did such a nice job in those middle rounds of identifying great talent. Cosme, St. Just, Bates did a great job for you. That's a tough process because those are names that people aren't necessarily familiar with. How do you make sure you excel in that area? Because that's how you build the depth on your roster, really.
Well, the biggest thing, you know, when you look at our guys and you start seeing, okay, where are they headed? You know, okay, so you watch them on tape. Okay, you know what? You watch John Bates, and there was an innate ability for him to win as a block.
Yeah.
And to have the coach say, you know, watch him right here. If he learns to put his hips into this position, get that hand placed right there, and then drive through, he can be pretty good. And then you go, man, watch him. He's got a tremendous catch radius. You know, but you know what? He doesn't run well. Yeah, but he separates when the ball's close. He knows how to put his body between yours and the ball. So you go, hey, that kid's got that kind of potential.
Yeah.
So you've got to look past just the raw numbers and say, but what's his skill set tell you?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we try to do. You know, when you watch Ben Juice, you said, you know, there's a guy that can potentially match up. If we have to work, if we have guys that are 6'3", you know, 6'4" wide receivers, we got to match up against. That's what you want with a guy like that kind of ability. Plus, he runs well. He's got great hands. You know, unfortunately,
very competitive.
Exactly. But unfortunately, he had the concussion last year. But you know, he's back. He says he's feeling good. He's healthy. So you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You look at Diami, and we know what Diami's capable of because we saw it. So those guys in those middle rounds, you know, Andy Reid used, you know, I learned when I was with Coach Reid that that's a very important group of guys between, you know, round 3 and round 6. I mean, those 3, 4, 5 guys and early 6 rounders, those are guys that, you know, that if you were in the 3rd round, that meant you could have been a 2nd rounder. You know, So if you're in the fourth, maybe you were third. So that's kind of the way to look at it, in my opinion.
Well, Coach, I know you've been crazy busy. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Awesome insight. Thank you.